or close to, yeah, 30.7 the first day and then 22 the last day. At that point, I think it was all on road. Now I know there's a section where it's on trail. It's an agreement that Eric has with the landowner, but it was not effective at that point. So the whole 53 miles that I had left at that point was all on the road.
Oh, got it. So pretty much after you left the Taylor Pond lean-to, for the most part, you were walking on the road until you were done.
Exactly.
And then, so you said you did 30 miles on one of those days?
Yeah, 30.7, so close to 31. I had already arranged for my mom to pick me up like the day after in Ellensburg, so I don't want to be late. And I wanted to cover more miles second to last day than the last day. So started road walking. So at first you're on Silver Lake Road. Eventually you go west on Union Falls Road, then north on Casey Road. There was interesting things like really nice houses, farms, spoke to some people. So it wasn't, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was a part of the Adirondacks that I had actually no knowledge of.
And it was just a change too. It's like a change of scenery and seeing different things. That you've been in the woods for the last week, so it's not bad to see some different things and some civilization for sure.
So eventually you get back on Silver Lake Road, north. And then there's this Susie Road that you take to go west. And I got there, and there was only a couple houses on that road, pretty far apart from each other. And I get to this one house, and there was a huge German Shepherd that was unleashed. And I love dogs, but I've had a couple bad experiences while hiking with dogs, so I'm a bit cautious around them. And there was no cars parked at the house. I didn't know if they had a kind of system where the dog actually cannot leave the property. I know some people have those, but I had no way of knowing. So I got really, really scared. The dog was huge and was just staring at me, and I was far away. So I kind of waited there for, I think, 20 minutes. I had no idea what to do. I thought of like going back and actually walking on road 3. But eventually a car came by. And I asked the guy, I'm like, could you just like drive with me while I walk in front of this house? And he was like, sure, what's going on? So yeah, that gentleman helped me walk in front of the dog.
All right.
And the dog actually, I think there was a system that was keeping him on the property because he never went out. But it was a bit scary. And it happened twice in the whole road walk. So yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind. There's dogs out there. And there's another time where it was kind of 4 farmers' dogs that all came running at me. And it was fine in the end. I mean, I knew they weren't going to attack, but it's always kind of a bit surprising when you're not expecting it. And there's like 4 barking dogs running at you. I got a little scared. So something to keep in mind when you're hiking in the northern part of the Adirondacks.
Sure. It could be nerve-wracking, certainly, especially when you just don't know the dogs.
Yeah. So you keep walking north, and then the wild forest areas are pretty sparse in that area. And as I was walking on True Brook Road, I passed the last ones, and I knew the next one was only in 4 miles, I think, or 5 miles. And I was tired at that point, but I knew I wanted a shorter day with brackets for my last day. I didn't want to have to do 30 miles on my last day, so I kept going. And eventually, from True Brook Road, you take a left, so north on number 37 road. And I still had a couple miles to go to the next wild forest area, and I was getting tired. And I saw this couple walking on the road, and they obviously lived in the area. And I went to them and I was like, oh, do you think you would let me sleep on your lawn? And at first they didn't really seem happy about me asking. They were like, well, we don't know you. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to sleep on your lawn. Like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm like, I can show you my ID. But eventually they really warmed up to me and they were super nice.
Amazing.
And we're actually still Facebook friends. And for a while we sent each other Christmas cards. And I was like, oh, if you ever come to Montreal, please let me know. But yeah, it was really random. They had no idea that the Trans Adirondack Route went in front of their house, but now they know.
Sure. I could imagine that would be a very surprising thing to hear someone say to them. Some, hiker walking down the road, can I sleep on your front lawn? I can understand their hesitation for sure, but that's wonderful. It turned out to blossom a little relationship. Perfect.
Yes, absolutely. And they were really nice. Yeah, and I understand, like, they don't know me, and I was just at this point, this very dirty hiker asking if I could sleep in front of their house. But all ended up fine, so they let me sleep there, which was really nice, because at that point, the next, like, piece of land where I was actually allowed to set up a tent was still far away, and I would have to climb up to be, I think you need to be at least 200 feet from the road when you do that. So I was tired, and I was just so happy that it would let me camp there. So that was day 10, close to 31 miles. Ended up sleeping at a house on road number 37. So then the last day, I tried to start early because, of course, I had this appointment with my mom where she would come pick me up. She had to cross the border herself twice. So I had 22 miles left, all road walk. I do know now there is a portion of that in the last days that is on trail. Lucky hikers. But at that point, it was all on the road. So I just walked all the way following Eric's indications to Ellenberg Center, a very small town. At the end of the trail, where there's actually the blue line, the Adirondack boundary, is where there's a sign for the town that says Ellenberg Center. So I got there, took a selfie of myself with the sign that I sent to Eric eventually. And then, that was it. I was done. I hadn't told my mom to meet me in Ellenberg Center because I was worried she would get lost. I told her to meet me in Ellenberg, which is along a more major road. So I hitchhiked from Ellenberg Center to there. It was a short hitch. Guy that picked me was funny. The first car that came by picked me up basically, but he was like, "Are you gonna kill me?" And I'm like, "Well, no." "Are you gonna kill me?" And he said no, so that was all good.
That's the first question I would ask someone too.
He actually was going where I was going, which was kind of a gas station general store. And even though I was an hour early, my mom was already there, so I was able to get on my way right away to a hot meal and a shower.
Perfect. So now, what was the first meal you had? What was the hot meal when you had finally finished the TransADK route?
I don't remember. I've had so many of these like kind of celebration meals now after hiking. I'm not sure that one what it was exactly.
All right, cool. Well, there it is. So now when you had 50-something miles left to go, but knowing it was all road walking, obviously you said your feet were just completely wrecked at this point. In your mind, did you kind of think you were done, or the hard part was done as far as like navigating goes? Because now you're walking on roads. Or in your brain, were you still in your brain, I'm far from done, due to the fact that it's over 50 miles still?
I knew in some ways it would be easier because it's just roads. In other ways, road walking just kills my feet. On the long trail I did in New Zealand, it's a 3,000-kilometer trails I followed, and there's quite a bit of road walking. And I knew that it would really hurt my feet after a while. And after 30 miles, like if after 30 miles I stop hiking and half an hour again, I try to start walking again. I really walk like a kind of penguin. It's really funny to see me. So I knew that would be hard, but at the same point, there's less route finding. There's no bushwalk. Like, you can walk at a pretty steady pace. So it has its pros and cons.
Sure, totally. So now that you're done, you've completed all 235 plus miles of this trail. In your brain now, what was the most challenging section that comes to mind, and then what was your favorite section that comes to mind?
I really enjoyed the West Canada Lake Wilderness. I had never been there, and I was Samson Lake and the Samson Lake Lean-To absolutely fell in love with, so that would be my favorite section. Of course, the most challenging sections, it's the off-trail, definitely, because it's so slow going. It can be nerve-wracking at times, if it's muddy especially. Good job to people who have done these sections after rain, because I had dry weather and I still found it difficult. So good for them if they were able to survive these sections. Yeah, definitely the bushwalks or something. The one down Catamount is pretty brutal, and also the one I was talking about where it's a bit longer. I think it's in the Mackenzie Mountain Wilderness. bit longer one. That was also challenging.
All right. So now would you say your bushwhacking skills have improved dramatically from doing this trail? Or is it something you just don't want to ever do again anyways?
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm much more comfortable doing it. And I know, like, there's no reason to freak out. I mean, there's no trail, but I know where I'm going. I have the skills. I have a compass. Most times I have my GPS, even though the batteries don't last forever. But it made me more confident.
That's perfect. Awesome. So now, with hindsight being 2020, if you were to go do it again, or someone was asking you for, tips, what would you do differently this next time around? So knowing now, what would you have done differently, if anything?
I try to rely too much. Like, I wanted the trail to fit exactly the maps that Eric provides. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the maps are really good, but they don't match perfectly. And trails change in the Adirondacks whenever there's a storm. Sometimes trails will be relocated. So just follow the trail that's there if it makes sense, and don't expect the trail to be exactly where you want it to be because of this map someone gave you. So that would be my one piece of advice, and the one thing I would do differently. Overall, I'm really happy with the way things went. Probably pick different shoes because these shoes ended up giving me a lot of blisters, but now I have figured out much better shoes for me. So that would be different. And one piece of advice that I did, but more people should do, if you want to hike this route, don't go too early. I wouldn't go in May or June or even July. I don't think I would go. I think August, September. There's less bugs, there's less mud. You're going to have a much nicer time, in my opinion.
Very cool. So there it is, 10 days, 6 hours, and 46 minutes with an average of 23 miles a day. She completed the TransADK route. Unbelievable. So I have a couple final questions that I always ask people on the podcast. There's no wrong answer. First question, what items do you always have in your backpack when you're out hiking? Are there any special things that have to come with you on a hike, or certain things that you just always want in your backpack specifically?
Yeah, there's a couple that I always have. Other than the basic safety items, sleeping socks. They really make me happy when it's time to stop, to have these clean, warm socks. Also a GPS tracker, since I do a lot of my adventures solo, either in InReach or a spot or something like that. Makes me feel safer. I don't try to, because some people will take more risk because they have these devices. I try not to let it influence me too much, but it really helps my family to know where I am and to be able, with the InReach now, especially to send little messages. It's helpful for them. And yeah, portable charger for all these nice electronics, GPS and the GPS tracker.
I recently finally purchased a GPS, and that was because my wife was like, I want to know where you are. You're always out there by yourself. It would help my peace of mind. So at that point, I was like, okay, fine, I'll buy it. I'll spend the money. And yeah, it's a game changer. I highly recommend them to everybody, the InReach in particular. Cool. So now you've hiked all over the world, and you're out in Colorado now. What in your mind, based on your experience here, what makes the Adirondacks a unique place?
Just kind of, there's so much history around the Adirondacks, and it's so, a lot of people have said it on your podcast, but it's a wild place, still in the lower 48. It's great. It's for me, it's where I started rock climbing. It's where I started hiking. So even though I'm not from New York, I'm from Quebec. Yeah, I feel ties to the area. It's an area I absolutely love, and that makes it a very special place for me.
Very cool. And my final question is, why do you hike? What's the reason that you like to go out and put yourself through these very strange situations that any of us who are out hiking put ourselves through?
Well, I saw this quote a while ago, and it might be a bit cheesy, but I liked it. It said, hiking is the answer. Who cares what the question is? There
it is. All right.
And that's kind of my philosophy with hiking. It's just something I enjoy. I find life on trail to be refreshing, simple. It helps with my creativity. Whenever I'm hiking, I get all sorts of ideas and different things in my life. So it really helps me.
So now, where can people find you if they want to ask you some questions about this hike? Where can they locate you?
I actually have a blog